We're still in hard lockdown here, so it's time for more 1960s science fiction hidden gems. Yes, some of them are more hidden than others, but that's okay. They're hidden to some people and they're gems to some people, so I'm going with the hidden gems labelling here. Before we do, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the notification bell so I can annoy you every time I put out a new video. And stick around to the end of the video to find out which actor or actress I'm honouring as the Actor of the Week. In each Saturday's video, I'll be honouring someone who has contributed to the thespic arts in an interesting way, so hang around for that one. Let's move on to 3 hidden gems of 1960s science fiction cinema. This movie came from Amicus Productions, who gave us Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Torture Garden, which I mentioned last week, and The Deadly Bees. But in the late 1960s, Amicus was trying to diversify out of anthology horror. They made a movie based on a Harold Pinter play directed by William Friedkin, a gritty spy film that I recommend, and a feminist drama based on a Margaret Drabble novel starring Ian McKellen. So they were trying to go upmarket, but they also tried to go upmarket in horror with this adaptation of Charles Eric Main's novel. Terence Stamp plays John Soames, a man who at birth acquired an injury to the sleep centre of his brain. At age 30, he has been in a coma all his life. Dr. Bergen, played by Robert Vaughn, performs an operation to stimulate the sleep centre in Soames' brain and wake him up. The operation proves to be successful. The head of the medical centre where Soames lives, Dr. Maitland, played by Nigel Davenport at his nastiest, has a program to get Soames up to speed as an adult. Maitland is an authoritarian with zero compassion. So it's up to Bergen and several others who work at the clinic to bring Soames from infancy to adulthood in a compassionate way. This puts him at odds with Dr. Maitland. Terence Stamp's very good as Soames, and Robert Vaughn gives one of his best acting performances as the borderline alcoholic but empathetic Bergen. The plot moves along in a not entirely unpredictable way to an interestingly non-cliched and humane conclusion. Of course, this is one of the myriad iterations of the Frankenstein story, and as William Holden tells Audrey Hepburn in Paris When It Sizzles,
Miss Simpson, did you ever realize that Frankenstein and My Fair Lady are the same story? One ends happily, and the other one doesn't.
The mind of Mr. Soames also goes into issues of education, of nature versus nurture, and more than anything else, medical ethics. This movie shows Amicus at its best. The production values and the acting are solid on a relatively low budget, and the direction by TV director Alan Cook avoids visual cliches in a pleasing way. You should check this one out, and if you haven't seen it for a while, it may be time to revisit. John Krish, who directed this movie, was better known as a documentary film director and won many awards for it. And this is a slow burn cult science fiction movie that looks really good because of that direction. It begins with us following Dr. Mark Davidson, played by John Neville, as he runs frantically along the Thames embankment at night. He's a scientist who has just recreated the breakthrough his boss, Dr. Munro, played by Warren Mitchell with a Scottish accent.
Good morning, Miss Ballard.
Good morning, Professor Munro. Did you take the lift?
Certainly not.
You'll strain your heart, you know.
Baloney.
Completed before his brain exploded and his skull and his spinal vertebrae fused together. The research was lost, but Dr. Davidson has been able to reproduce it. The authorities are investigating these mysterious brain explosions among prominent scientists. It turns out all of them have been working on ways of teleporting human beings to alien worlds, as well as adapting them to be able to survive the conditions on those planets.
We believe it will be possible to travel across time and space simply in one's mind and arrive, as poor Munro used to say, in the world beyond the stars.
A rather flamboyant security agent played by Patrick Newell, who tells us he's a confirmed bachelor.
As a confirmed bachelor, I'd rather face the unknown than a face covered in cold cream at night and pin curlers over breakfast.
Investigates the mysterious deaths and finds out that very little can be found out about Dr. Davidson's wife Julie, played by Gabrielle Lucuti, before she met him. The security agent Major Clark suspects Russian involvement, but the truth is a lot more strange. Unearthly Stranger comes in at a tight 78 minutes. It has echoes of the paranoia of some earlier films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and I Married a Monster from Outer Space. and at times it has the feel of a 1960s British television show, with familiar faces like Philip Stone and Jean Marsh showing up in smaller roles. There are also some interesting gender issues at play in this movie, which are associated with the method of the alien invasion. It's worth considering the film through that particular lens. Best of all, the very last scene of the movie is deliciously unsettling. Network and Studio Canal put out a bare-bones Region B Blu-ray release of this movie. By the way, I really hate the title of it. I think it's generic and ordinary. But you should have the film in your collection. It's a hidden gem, and it is filmed beautifully. This Italian science fiction movie was filmed at Cinecittà Studios by one of the geniuses of genre films from the second half of the 20th century, Mario Bava. A lot has been said and written about how influential this modestly budgeted movie has been. It stars US import Barry Sullivan, for whom making the film wasn't a pleasant experience. He was the only cast member who spoke English, and everybody else spoke in their native language and were dubbed into whichever language the movie was being released in. Planet of the Vampires is a wonderfully creepy movie. Two interstellar spacecraft receive a distress signal from an unexplored planet called Aura. The crews of the two ships, the Argos and the Gallant, are possessed by an unknown force as they land, and all of the crew fall into a murderous rage. Only Captain Macari resists, and as the survivors try to work out what happened, the corpses of their dead crewmates are reanimated by an alien force. Investigating the cause of the attacks, the crew find a derelict alien spacecraft with a very large alien corpse in it and another one out the front. This, of course, was a big influence on Ridley Scott's Alien. Captain Macari and Norma Bengel's Sanya are trapped in the alien spaceship and have to hack the technology of the ship to escape. This giant alien spaceship is one of the most interesting creations of 1960s science fiction cinema. It was done on a crazy low budget with special effects that used in-camera trickery to convey the size and the strangeness of the spaceship. The crew discovers that the mysterious alien force wants to use their spaceships and their crew to invade their home planet. This is a beautiful looking film, using every trick in the book of physical special effects. Mario Bava creates a strikingly wondrous world. He uses primary colour lighting. He uses 3 different kinds of smoke effects: dry ice, smoke pots and church incense, to give a layered look to the misty atmosphere of the planet. He uses forced perspective, the Shuftan process shots, miniatures used in combination with deep depth of field, and split screen process shots to create a look unlike anything that came before. The sets are incredibly well designed. They give an industrial strangeness to the spaceships. And although we know the planet's surface is a set of Cinecittà Studios, after a while you kind of accept it as an alien and dangerous place. The fetishistic leather uniforms of the crew, created by Gabriel Mayer, are now iconic in genre cinema. As Tim Lucas says in the commentary track of the Blu-ray release of this movie, the film would be better called Planet of the Zombies, as the reanimated corpses don't drink blood. And for me, Planet of the Vampires is a more entertaining film than 2001: A Space Odyssey. It has no pretensions, and unlike Stanley Kubrick, Mario Bava loved and respected science fiction as a genre, and for me that counts for a lot. The Kino Lorber Blu-ray of this movie is now being resold for ridiculous prices on eBay. But if you can watch it on a streaming service or find a copy of it somehow, it's something that should be in your collection. Planet of the Vampires is a luscious, imaginatively created film, and I like it a lot. And that brings us to the actor of the week. And the actor for this week, for the very first actor of the week, is Bradford Dillman. Now, he was born in 1930 and died in 2018. He was an actor and an author, and started out on Broadway in Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night. He was trained in the Actors Studio, but the first movie of his that I really liked is Compulsion, a 1959 movie about the Leopold Loeb murders, where he plays one of the 2 murderers, along with Dean Stockwell, and he is very good in that. He's charismatic as hell. He did a movie where he plays Francis of Assisi as well, so he did a religious film, and did a lot of episodic television in the 1960s. He was in the Mephisto Wars. He did a really interesting television movie called The Resurrection of Zachary Wheeler in 1971, which had to do with organ transplants and cloning. He was in another hidden gem of the 1970s, a movie called Chosen Survivors. He was in The Enforcer, the third Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry film. He played John Wilkes Booth in a movie called The Lincoln Conspiracy. But the movies I like him for most are things like Piranha and The Swarm and all of those kind of cult films that he did in the 70s and 80s when he was a jobbing actor. He was also in William Castle's Bug. And to get back to his roots, in 1973, he did the really great version of Eugene O'Neill's The Iceman Cometh, directed by John Frankenheimer and starring Lee Marvin, Frederick March, Robert Ryan and Jeff Bridges. I've got a real soft spot for actors who don't necessarily become A-grade actors, but they're always reliable, they're always good, they're always memorable. And you see them popping up in the most obscure places. So I thought I'd start out the Actors of the Week with Bradford Dillman for that reason. All credit to Bradford Dillman. I may well just go back and watch a couple of his films, maybe Piranha, I think, and maybe The Resurrection of Zachary Wheeler, because that's an interesting little hidden gem of the 1970s. So there you go, that's the Actor of the Week this time around. Thank you very much for watching. You can support the channel too by going to patreon.com/paleocinema and donating a little money towards the channel. And as I always say, please get the jab if you haven't already, and I know a lot of you have. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch some 1960s science fiction movies. And I'll catch you next time.